Hello and welcome to the FPOV Core Concepts series. Our core concepts are concepts we believe that every organization needs to be familiar with in order to maximally use technology in their operation. Today we're going to talk about humology. So let's get started. So what is this word humology and where did it come from? Well, FPOV invented the word and it was derived from the combination of humanity and technology. Because every action in today's culture uses some humanity and some technology. Hence, humology. So what is this humology? As I mentioned before, all actions in today's modern world have two components, a human component and a technology component. Humology is the ability to break down these components and identify how much is involved in a particular action. This is important to understanding because in order to make the action the most efficient, we need to identify how much of each one of these is involved. And maybe most importantly, it gives you a vocabulary and metrics by which to communicate with your colleagues and other people about how to talk about this level of involvement from each particular side. All this leads to what we call a humology score. So now let me talk to you about what the humology score is and what the humology scale is. The humology scale is what we use to communicate where a specific activity ranks. There's no right or wrong place on the scale. An activity just happens to land on it somewhere based on the determining factors of human involvement versus technology involvement. On the left, we have a task that would be more human weighted. On the right, we have a task that would be more technology weighted. Let me give you an example to further clarify how this works. So let's take a task like digging a hole. If we were going to dig a hole with our hands, we would call that an H5 activity. If we were going to add some technology to digging the hole, like a shovel, that would be an H2. A zero would literally be a person sitting in a symbiotic relationship with some sort of hole digging technology like a backhoe. So what would a T2 be? It might be a remote operated backhoe or 4 remote operated backhoes with a human remotely operating each machine. Now what about a T5? A T5 might be a robot driver or maybe even a pre-programmed backhoe that determines where the best places to dig are. Then it just goes out, makes an assessment of the situation, and starts digging where it determines the best place is to dig. But now let me give you an example that might be a little bit closer to home. Accounting. So in the past we did accounting with a pencil and paper. Now, arguably, this isn't exactly an H5. An H5 might be doing it in your head, but it's close enough. What is an H2? Well, an H2, we would pull in a calculator and let a machine do the calculations for us, so we don't have to do it on paper. What about a 0? Well, now we might put our information into a spreadsheet, and it does the calculations for us, and it also does the extra task of storing the information so we don't have to go retrieve it at a file cabinet or another physical location. So what about a T2? Well, a T2 is about where we're at today. So if your company used some sort of accounting software, we would say your accounting is a T2. So a T2, it takes pre-programmed accounting rules and it just applies them to your numbers. So what would a T5 look like in the future? Well, likely it's some sort of artificial intelligence that just learns your business. It learns how you spend your money. It learns how you budget your money. It learns what you do with your money. And then it gives you a suggestion on how to more efficiently use your money. So you might be asking yourself, so why is this so important? Well, the humological balance is what it's all about. It's about efficiency. It's about finding that perfect place on the scale for your business and for a specific task. When you find that perfect place, you're at peak efficiency. The other thing that's really important is to determine when to add technology, when to take technology away, because having too much technology can be just as disastrous as not having enough. And let me show you a couple of ways that that plays out in the real world today. We're all familiar with Tesla, and they had a goal of creating the most efficient robotic-operated assembly line known to man. There was a problem. It was too much technology. Why, you might ask? How can you have too much technology on something like an assembly line? Well, they had to cut their estimates from 10,000 cars per week to 1,100. And the problem was they determined that robots are really bad at anticipating problems. If a nut doesn't fit on a bolt, a robot just forces it on over and over and over again, and then you end up with a bunch of problems that have to be fixed later on down the assembly line. Humans are very good at anticipating and understanding and identifying issues before they become problems. Toyota, on the other hand, took the opposite tack. They started replacing robots with humans for this very reason. So a human can look down the assembly line and realize there is a problem headed my way. They can stop the assembly line before it becomes a disaster. And humans are uniquely tasked and uniquely designed to do this, whereas machines or computers or robots aren't as good at accomplishing this sort of task.